Welcome back to the Stereo. I'm Thomas Wasson, joined by Donny Gilbert, of course, and bringing up the map today, looking at some reefer changes. Donny, what are we looking at?
So we're looking at the rejection rate, rejection rate changes over a 1 week period. In this segment, we're going to do 1 week, 2 weeks, and then a full month. And you can bring these up using your 3D maps in Sonar. Now, in the background, I have the volumes, the volumes that are for today. So we can see which markets are changing. So when you look at these, I immediately see, Phoenix, Arizona here. But, we see some up there in Washington changing, but a lot of the big changes are North Dakota, in areas that are very rural and, around outside, Chicago. But the only really huge markets that we have in these that are changing right now is, maybe Phoenix and maybe a little bit of Houston over here. And these week-over-week changes that are concerning. If we go to the next map, we'll see here that this is a 2 week change. So I'm trying to draw it out here. You can change these in Sonar, use ROTRI, W for weekly, F for biweekly, and M for monthly, or Y for yearly. So I draw it out to 2 weeks just to kind of see, hey, what, is there anything else that I see that may pop up or look different? Well, there's not a lot of change between these two. It's actually more subtle, a little bit less, but we still have Phoenix. We still have Houston. We still have the Dakotas up here, but Chicago, Joliet, maybe down a little bit. We got Nashville jumping in here, but the bigger markets, really Allentown and Elizabeth for reefer, Atlanta, Dallas, Fort Worth, again, Chicago, and California out there, there's not a lot of changes, very little, if maybe, less than 0.5% up, less than 0.5% down.
What about Twin Falls, the spud capital of the world? I noticed the spuds appear to be dwindling, judging by the height as well as our color.
Yeah, so we have both spuds and we have a big yogurt factory up there. And there's going to be some issues with these loads. These are going to be a lot harder to cover. You're going to see some capacity issues. As we get into this winter, we're already seeing, storms hit some of these mountainous regions. So nobody's going to be real excited to be running up to Idaho to make that big money and wreck their truck. So you'll see a lot of drivers avoid that area. Now, there are drivers that specialize in this right here.
Yeah.
They'll be going in there, they'll be picking up, they'll probably be bringing it down to Salt Lake City and warehousing them there and running them out either out of Salt Lake City by trucks or train. So pay attention to that, but like I say, a lot of your regulars are not going to be wanting to ride up there and get their trucks in some heavy snow, which, like I say, it's happening now. We're starting to see videos, Wyoming, I-80, starting to get some snowfall just here and there, and it's obviously just going to get worse. Go to the next one here, we'll go to the monthly. The monthly looks a lot better here. So between last month to this month, we see a little bit of blue here in the Northeast. Of course, down here in Florida, but Houston a little bit brighter. We got Nashville, Tennessee picking up in here. A little bit closer areas still around that Chicago area picking up. Salt Lake City picking up. And then, of course, we got parts down here in Southern California for reefer as well. And so you can kind of see the changes over a month to 2 weeks to 1 week using these maps, and it might help you out to just kind of understand what's been going on with the rejection rates over the past 7 to 30 days.
Yeah, and I mean, as we see the weather changes as well, like you said, this I-40 corridor versus 80 and 90, it's going to be important to consider with your customers if you are picking up in some of these areas. Will you be able to route them southwards? Can you get additional funds for out of route? Does the customer typically route it? Because you could have instances where, Laramie, high wind alerts could knock over some units, as well as, which pass? Donner, one of the passes coming in right along that Colorado-Utah border also typically can have some problems, even with chain laws. Newer, inexperienced drivers don't know how to put the chains on. They're unaware of it.
And if you can't put the chains on, you probably shouldn't be driving it in the first place.
You'd be surprised. I had some get mad. They even had to have chains on it. And they're like, well, am I going to carry them? I was like, oh, you know.
So, yeah, and that's the chain law. It doesn't matter if you're going to run in the snow or not run in the snow. You have to have chains on the truck. And I've had issues with drivers being overweight where they've had to take their chains off the back and put them up in the passenger side floorboard as far up under the dash as they can get them, and they passed. They shifted that weight from their just a few hundred pounds from their drives to their steers, and we were good to go. And let's do one more map here. We just got a few minutes left here, but this is the reefer head haul index map. Always good to see. Where do you want to point your trucks to? Run to the blue. Chicago's still one of these markets that's jumping up blue. And when we get to our lanes of the day, I'll go ahead and ruin it. When we get to lanes today, we'll do refresh Chicago.
Gonna love it, Donnie. Thank you so much for that update. We'll be back with 2 more later in the hour. But until then, let's toss it over to Kaylee and Anthony for our next guest.